used to be, yes, I lived in Minnesota, like Hannah Swenson. You know, Hannah Swenson lives in Lake Eden, Minnesota, which is in the central part of the state. And Lake Eden is a lovely place to live. It really is. Lake Eden, it's idyllic. I mean, the people are friendly. The stores are darling. It's just wonderful. There's no crime to speak of. I mean, there are no muggings. There are no carjackings. There are no burglaries. But it is the murder capital of the world. There is at least one murder in every single Hannah Swenson book. Sometimes two. And this is book 18. So you add that up for a small little Minnesota town. And I used to think I wanted to live there. I don't think that anymore. Hannah Swenson really enjoys living in Lake Eden, despite the murder rate. As a matter of fact, she stumbles over dead bodies all the time. Her mother, Dolores, is very embarrassed about this. Dolores is afraid that when Hannah walks down the street, small children will run screaming from her because she finds all these murder victims. And if Hannah stumbles across a murder victim, she feels honor-bound to solve that crime. Now, Hannah has two sisters. She's the oldest. Then there's Andrea, who is married to the local Winnetka County Sheriff. That's handy. And then there's Michelle, the youngest Swenson sister. Michelle is going to college, but she comes home an awful lot on the bus. And that is because she enjoys staying with Hannah. Hannah owns a business in town. She owns the Cookie Jar, which is a bakery and a coffee shop. And that's why there are over 20 recipes in double fudge brownie murder. Now, how many people have read a Hannah Swenson book? Oh gosh, that's wonderful. I don't have to do too much background there. That's very good. Okay, in this book, do you all remember Doc Knight? Yeah? Okay, Doc Knight is Dolores's, Hannah's mom, Dolores's fiance. Fiance. What is the male called? Do you know? The groom-to-be, is that fiance or fiance? Yeah. Fiance. Okay, well anyway, he's going to marry Dolores. But Dolores is a very picky type lady. There are two ways to do things, Dolores believes. There's the wrong way, and there are Dolores's way. And Dolores wants things done her way. Now, she does not want to. She said she did not want to arrange her own wedding. She was leaving that up to her daughters. Oh, yeah. You're right. Unfortunately, Dolores wants to be hands-on with everything. So she wants to micromanage. So when Hannah comes up with the menu for the wedding dinner, Dolores says, "Chicken? Oh, it's so ordinary. Can't we have something else?" And this is what happens with everything. Pink? You want the bridesmaids' dresses to be pink? Oh no, that's too ordinary. The flowers? Chrysanthemums? Oh no, I don't like chrysanthemums. So this is the way it's going. The girls can't do anything right. Well, Doc Knight is really a wonderful man. And he goes to the girls and says, "Look, girls, I have an idea. I know you're getting very frustrated with your mother interfering in the wedding plans. And at this rate, we're never going to get married. So I have a plan. I'm going to elope with your mother. And I want you all to come along. What we're going to do is we're going to pack a bag for Dolores, and we are going to hide it, and then we are going to get her on a plane, and we are going to fly to Las Vegas. And then we'll get married. The girls say, fine. I mean, anything to save us from this. So the beginning of Double Fudge Brownie Murder is Dolores and the girls and Doc Knight flying to Las Vegas so that Doc and Dolores can get married. And that's just fine. Doc has a wonderful best man in mind. I mean, his best man is going to be someone he went to medical school with. But unfortunately, this doctor is in Doctors Without Borders, and he can't get back in time for the wedding. So we need a substitute best man.
Elvis?
Oh, well, hey, you know, there is an Elvis impersonator in the book. No, not Elvis, no. It's a blast from the past for Hannah. Now, Hannah has two boyfriends in town, in Lake Eden. And those two boyfriends are Mike Kingston, who is the chief detective on the Winnetka County Sheriff's Department squad, and Norman Rhodes, who is the town dentist.
Mary Norman.
See, I knew it. I knew somebody would say that to me. Okay. The big problem is Hannah is kind of unable to choose. I mean, here is Hannah Swenson. She's over 30. She is not model thin. And she is dating the two most eligible single men in Lake Eden, Minnesota. Why would she give that up? I mean, she's got a good life, right? She owns her own business. She loves it. And she owns her own condo, and she likes that a lot. And she is not lonely because her whole family is in Lake Eden. And she, of course, has adopted a cat, Moisha, who lives with her in the condo. So she really doesn't, well, she would like a man in her life, but she can't decide whether she wants Norman or Mike. Now, if you had to choose for him, those of you who have read the books, how many of you would want Mike? Ooh! I guess Mike's in the doghouse, huh? Not that many people. How many of you would want Norman? Oh, boy. How many of you wouldn't want Hannah to get married at all? Okay, that's fair.
Can I change my answer?
Yes, you can change your answer at any time when you're reading the book. You can do that. When I was in Texas, Texas was one of those stops. I had an interesting thing happen. I did exactly what I did with you tonight. I said, you know, how many want Mike, how many want Norman? And I got pretty evenly divided group. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Now, my editor has been after me for the last, I'd say 8 books. He said, he calls me on the phone and says, Joanne, Hannah's got to choose. You can't have this going on. She has to decide which guy she wants to marry. We need Hannah to get married. And I say, why? She's got a perfectly good life. I mean, she's having so much fun dating both of them. Why does she have to get married? And he says, we need a wedding in the books. And so my argument, coming right back at him, is we've had weddings in the books. We saw Hannah's partner, Lisa, and Herb Beesman, the town deputy, or the town, what is he? I I've forgotten what his title is, but Herb is the town constable. And
He's a ticket man.
yeah, he's the ticket man. He gives you tickets if you're parked illegally, and oh my yes, or you don't lock your car. Oh yeah, that's her. But we saw that wedding, so why do we need another? And of course, in this book, I keep telling him, you will also see Doc and Dolores' wedding. Why do we need another wedding? I said, well, because we haven't seen Hannah's wedding. And Hannah has to get married. Like, she has to get married? Yes, he says she has to have children. So I felt like saying, does Hannah know that? But I didn't, because he is my editor, and he's also editor-in-chief of Kensington Publishing, so, you know, I didn't do that. But I said, why does Hannah have to have children? And he replied, because we need children in the book.
What's nice?
She's good.
I know, that's what I said. I said, we got kids. You know, Andrea has 2 children, daughters, and we've got Tracy and we got Bethy. And they're in almost every book. So why do we need more kids? They're not Hannah's kids, he says. So, finally, I decided, I'm tired of fighting. Okay, fine. In Double Fudge Brownie Murder, Hannah will choose. Ooh. So, I promised this quite a while ago. So I have been asking, as I said, the people in Texas and all over the place, who would you want her to marry? And in Texas it was rather interesting because we had a very large group. And there were 2 ladies in the front row. And there was a lady sitting about where you are, okay? And she said, oh, Joanne, please don't let Hannah marry Mike. Please. And then a lady here jumped to her feet and said, what's wrong with Mike? And the lady over here said, Mike, you know what's wrong with Mike. Mike is interested in every pretty girl that walks by. Even when he's with Hannah, he's watching the pretty girls walk by. And if she married Mike, she would never know where he was at night. And the lady over here said, well, there are worse things than that. Norman, how could she marry Norman? Oh, my goodness. Norma's a dentist. She didn't like dentists, obviously. I mean, he has his fingers in people's mouths all day. And then he'd come home to Hannah? Oh, no, not Norman.
Besides what his father did.
Yeah, yeah. But they were getting hot under the collar about this, arguing about Mike and Norman, right? And by now, they're facing off with their hands like this. And I'm thinking, uh-oh, you know, what's going to happen? And the lady over here again says, I still don't understand what's wrong with Norman. And the lady over here said, well, I'll tell you. I married a Norman. And I wish I'd married a Mike. And the lady over here said, oh, no, you don't. I married a Mike. And I wish I'd married a Norman. By now, I am looking around to see if these 2 women are with any men in the audience. Because I figure it's going to get nasty. But before I could call store security or something, there was a lady way in the back, and she jumped to her feet, and she said, ladies, stop it. Now just cut it out. How about Ross? And they looked at each other and went, oh, we forgot all about Ross. Oh, And they sat down and it was over. Thank goodness, I was worried. So everything gave me ideas that year. And I decided that Hannah would definitely, I have to keep my promise to my editor, and so Hannah will choose in Double Fudge Brownie. Now, if you have read it, do not tell, please. Please do not tell her choice. And if you are about to read it, don't peek. Come on. Let me surprise. Some of you will be pleased, very pleased. Some of you will not be pleased. Some of you may be madder than wet hens at me. But I want you to remember one thing after you finish Double Fudge Brownie Murder. Hannah's wedding will probably take place in Lake Eden, Minnesota. And unexpected things happen in Lake Eden. So you do not know what's going to happen in the next book. I do. The next book is titled Wedding Cake Murder.
Oh. There goes the murder.
Poor Mike.
Right, there goes the groove. No, just now, I'm not telling you. I'm not going to tell you. But it will be very interesting. I wrote the outline already. When I get home, I'm writing the book, because I can hardly wait. Yeah, that'll be fun. Anyway, of course, there's a murder in this book. Naturally. How many people read Blackberry Pie Murder? Okay, so some of you know this already. But in Blackberry Pie Murder, the book before Double Fudge, Hannah gets into trouble with her driving. She, in a terrible, blinding thunderstorm, she hits someone and kills them. Now, it's really not her fault. This is a terrible thing. I mean, she swerved to avoid a fallen branch from a tree from this awful storm in the blinding rain, and this man came right out, and she hit him, and he died. Okay, that would be called an accident. But there is an obscure little Minnesota law that says if you break any driving rule that's in the driver's manual, and you are driving and you hit someone and kill them, you can be accused of vehicular homicide. Now in Hannah's case, what they put this in the law for, I understand because I called a lawyer and asked, is for drunk drivers and drivers on drugs and things like that. They're already breaking the rules, and then they have this accident that results in a death. And I can understand that. But Hannah, of course, was not drinking and she's not on drugs. So she just got into this accident because of the terrible storm. And she did not pull over when the visibility was less than it says in the driver's manual. That's why she got accused of this. So she is going to be on trial in Double Fudge Brownie Murder. And there is a murder. And I guess I could tell you the judge gets killed. Well now, who do you think will be a suspect? Oh yeah. You know, Hannah is a suspect. And of course she wants to clear her name, so she is going to try to solve the crime. And Hannah's usually very successful at solving crimes, so that is the murder that happens. Let's see, what else can I tell you about Double Fudge? I can tell you how I goofed last year when I went out with Blackberry Pie Murder. I didn't realize that so many people had wonderful recipes that they were willing to email to me. I asked for recipes. And I asked specifically, I said, I have a perfectly good brownie recipe. And I could use it, but it's just perfectly good. It's not Hannah Swenson caliber, you know, because Hannah's recipes are super. So if you have a really, really good brownie recipe, please email it to me. And I said this to everybody that was in the audience, everywhere I went. And I was up for 5.5 weeks that year. So I got home and I opened up my email. And I had over 2,000 brownie recipes. I did not test everyone. If I had tested everyone, they would have had to wheel me in the store. Oh my, but there were some good ones. So I read through everyone, definitely. And I compared them to the perfectly good brownie recipe that I had. And I was intrigued by some of the differences. Like, it was wonderful. Like, one used 2 different kinds of chocolate. And I thought, double fudge brownie. Yes, that sounds good. That would do. So I put that one over in a pile. And somebody else had a different baking time. I thought, ooh, I got to try that. I put that in the pile. Somebody else used some unusual ingredient that I wasn't using. I put that in the pile. Before I knew it, I had 12 to 15 in that pile. And I did test every one of those. They were good. My neighbors were happy. My family was delighted, yeah. So, then I decided to be fair, I had to try to roll all those recipes into one. You know, take this from this recipe, and that from that recipe, and this from this one, and get one recipe that was super, super duper Hannah Swenson double fudge brownies. And I managed. I can't believe it, but I actually managed to do that. So the recipe in the book is absolutely delicious. I gotta tell you. And I tested it. I tested it, oh, maybe 11 or 12 times. Oh yeah. And of course I had to try one from, and sometimes more than one, from each batch. Oh yeah. You know, before I started this series, I weighed 99 pounds. Oh, I love to bake. I love to eat what I bake. So I have to be very careful that all the recipes are really good. And another thing, and they're good in this book. Oh my, there's some good ones. Another thing I have to do is make sure they work. So I test each one 3 times, and they have to work all 3 times. And then I have, I call it a fail-safe thing. I have a recipe tester that really helps me out a lot. Now, do any of you know my son, John? Just from Facebook, right? Okay, so then you don't know his girlfriend, Kathy, right? Oh, good. Okay, then I can tell you. I can tell you that Kathy can burn water. Kathy is just not very good at baking. She can make a couple of main dishes, you know, only like 2. She's like Dolores, right? Dolores has got her Hawaiian pot roast, and she's got a couple others, and that's it. Kathy's got spaghetti, and she's got, you know, a couple others, but that's it. So, Kathy does not know how to bake. I want people who are novice bakers, who maybe have never baked before, to be able to read through one of my recipes and actually make it and have a success making it. So, I decided I would have Kathy test my recipes after I'd written them out. And I tried to make the directions as simple as possible. Because in baking, for those of you who do it, you know what things mean, right? Okay, for instance, I gave Kathy my recipe one time for chocolate chip crunch cookies. And I wrote it out. This is before I revised it and fixed the directions. And it said, well, first of all, she called me. She read through it. She called me. She said, Joanne, you didn't write down how much. I said, how much what? She said, cream. I said, cream. Okay. What? there's no cream in it. Uh-huh. She said, but it says cream the butter and the sugar. So I had to explain what that meant. And that's when I realized that there are a lot of baking terms that are kind of strange. For instance, plump the raisins. What do? Feed them fatty foods? You just don't, you might not know how to do it. So I'm very careful writing directions. And then I would give the recipe to Kathy, and I would say, okay, Kathy, I want you to try to bake these cookies, or this pie, or this cake. And she'd say, well, okay, but I'm not a very good baker. And I said, oh no, that's perfectly okay, dear. You know, just bake it, and then bring me a slice of that cake, or a piece of that pie, or a couple of the cookies, whatever it was. And so when she did that, I said, did you have any trouble with the recipe? And she'd say, no. Or she'd say, yeah, what does this mean? What does that mean? And then I knew I had to rewrite. But if she brought me, after I had finished the recipe, she brought me 2 cookies. Let's say it was a cookie recipe. 2 cookies that looked good and tasted good. I put the recipe in the book. Because if Kathy can bake, anybody can bake. Right. Oh gosh, that was fun. Yeah, the only problem is that was several years ago and she's getting too good. So I have to look for another total non-baker to test my recipes now. She's suggesting things now. Oh my. Right. Which is very nice, but I need somebody to really test these things. I'm trying to think what else I can tell you. Oh, it finally happened. Hannah Swenson is going to be in a movie. Yes. The Hallmark Movie and Mystery Channel. Yep, everybody's read about this one. Yeah. The Hallmark Movie and Mystery Channel is now filming up in Canada, in Vancouver. They are filming Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder, which is book number 1. And it is going to be so exciting. Yeah, I wish I could go. I wish I could see it, but, you know, I can't. But it is coming out. Okay, I have to tell you who's playing the parts. Hannah is Allison Sweeney. And she is a blonde, but you know there are red wigs. We get, oh, there's hair coloring too. I mean, whatever we decide. So she is going to be perfect, especially because she bakes. And she made the double fudge brownies for this book, which I was happy to hear about. If she bakes, it's going to look real on the movie screen, you know, because she actually knows what she's doing. So that is Hannah. Mike will be played by Cameron Matheson. I didn't hear any news, but he's pretty handsome. Pretty handsome guy. He was on All My Children, am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and he's been in a couple. He's also on TV. He's some kind of detective on TV. So this is good too. And he is huge. I know because I went to a Hallmark party and I had my picture taken between Allison Sweeney and Cameron Matheson. Me, between, yeah. But it was great.